Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the College Sports Superfan. And before anybody says, yes, I will be decorating more of this wall back here, I've got something great I can't wait to put up that'll be up in next week's videos. It wasn't a frame, but unfortunately, I got a little clumsy with it, so I'll have to get a new frame. But once that happens, then we'll have another great decorative piece right here, right below Tony Vitella with the College World Series National Championship. So, and of course, right next to this poster of the Volunteers 1998 National Championship season. So I'll get some more stuff, and maybe even some more stuff after that to kind of get this place a little bit more decorated. But for now, let's get into this preview of the Miami Hurricanes going across the country, literally coast to coast, going across the country to Berkeley to take on the California Golden Bears, who for now are a ACC conference foe, which is really, really strange. And I'm just going to be honest, this is just a quick prediction from me on this part. I don't think this is going to last. I think California and Stanford are both going to get really, really tired of having to constantly travel across the country. I think the other schools are going to get tired of it as well. And ultimately, with the Pac trying to rebuild itself, they added Gonzaga in as their basketball conference. I do believe Stanford and Cal will find a way over the next couple of years to get out of their current ACC contract and end up back in the Pac with Washington State and Oregon State and all these new additions that they added in, like Boise State, Gonzaga, and so on. That's what I personally believe because the cost will, from all this traveling is just gonna really add up, even though the TV revenue is gonna help out a little bit. But let's get into this game more specifically. Miami is a 12-point favorite heading into this game. But after what we saw on Friday night when they played Virginia Tech, I wouldn't be so sold on them to come in and exactly dominate this one, especially considering the fact that not only is it all the way across the country, but this game will not be starting until 10:30 Eastern time. That's 10:30 in Miami, Florida. They've rarely ever had to play a game that late at night. The team is just not used to that at all. So between the jet lag and also the very late starting time, I believe it is possible that the Canes get off to a very slow start in this game, but could pick things up as the game goes along. So let's talk about Miami's schedule as well. That also makes this a bit of a trap game, as they do have Louisville coming up on the horizon. That is on the road. They also go on the road against Florida State. Now, keep this in mind, they are heading into a bye week right after playing California here. So that's good for Miami. That bye week comes at a pretty good time, pretty critical time, because that Louisville and Florida State game could be the two biggest games of the season for Miami. Florida State, always a huge game, and Louisville arguably is still one of the best teams in the ACC. So that's going to be a big time matchup. Well, let's talk about Miami's team here. Cam Ward, he's fantastic. Definitely one of the best players in the entire country. He's got 1,782 passing yards, a 70% completion percentage, 18 passing touchdowns with only 4 interceptions. And get a load of this, he's also got 146 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So he's heading into this game with 20 total touchdowns. In my opinion, and I know I said Jalen Milroe in the Georgia preview is possibly the Heisman frontrunner, and especially after beating Georgia the way they did, he probably is still the Heisman frontrunner in my opinion. But Cam Ward is right below him. Like it's Milroe and then it's Ward, and they're right there for the Heisman Trophy, plus lots of other great players as well right along behind them. But Ward is right up there, and he's still got a strong possibility to win the most coveted individual player award in all of college football. And he's got a great supporting cast around him on this Miami offense. He's got two great running backs, Damian Martinez, who came over from Oregon State. He's got 250 yards and four touchdowns. They got Mark Fletcher, who's got 142 yards and three touchdowns. So besides Ward's own personal rushing ability, he's got a couple other guys that can mix it up and add some nice balance. But the receiving core for this Miami team is insanely good. Insanely good. It might be the best wide receiver group in the entire country. It's up there for sure because you got guys like Xavier Restrepo, who's going to be a big time player in the NFL probably soon. 422 yards, five touchdowns. You've got Isaiah Horton, who's got 312 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Jacoby George, who's got 231 yards and three touchdowns. And then the tight end Elijah Arroyo, who's really stepped up as a big time star, 272 yards and three touchdowns. So this is a great receiving core. And on defense, the defense has gotten very, very good. Even with some injuries that caused some concern early in the season, other guys have really stepped up, like former Tennessee Vol. Tyler Barron, who has 15 tackles on the defensive line. Simeon Barlow has 14 tackles. Elijah Alston has 15 tackles and an interception all on the D line. And then at linebacker are the is one of the best players on the team for sure. There's another guy I'll talk about in the secondary here in just a second. But Francisco Maui Goa has 30 tackles at linebacker, and Wes Saint has 21 tackles and an interception. So those two linebackers are absolutely fantastic. Then you've also got Michelle Powell, who has 18 tackles and three interceptions at corner. So he has been a beast back there. And then you got Jaden Harris, who has 22 tackles and an interception, and Jadace Richard, who has 17 tackles, all in the secondary. So Powell is a superstar. You got Maui Goa, who's a superstar. But along the rest of the defense, it's pretty solid at all three levels. And then meanwhile, California, they are coming off of a bye week. So this is another big reason why this is such a trap game for Miami, because not only are they on the road and it's late at night, and not only do they have these big time opponents on the horizon that are coming up, but there's also the fact that they're going up against a team that's well rested, that just had a bye week at the perfect time. California, they lost 14-9 to Florida State, which, before the season started, losing 14-9 to Florida State, people would have said, hey, you're looking pretty good. But now that we've seen how the Seminoles are this season, losing 14-9 to Florida State, who was winless at that point, is now not looking so good. So that's their first loss of the season. They started the year 3-0 and then lost that game. And the offense overall has not been, let's just say it has not been anywhere close to the same as Miami's, with quarterback Fernando Mendoza, who, fun fact, is from Miami, Florida. So that's pretty interesting. But he has a 67% completion percentage with 892 yards, five touchdowns, two interceptions. He's got a rushing touchdown as well. But six total touchdowns compared to 20 total touchdowns that Cam Ward has. There isn't really much of a comparison there. And then Jaden Ott, who heading into the season was expected to be one of the best running backs in the country, not just in the ACC, but in the country after what he did last season in the Pac 12. But this year he's been pretty quiet, 133 yards, two rushing touchdowns. That's it. And it's only about 3 yards per carry, I believe. Not very good. But Javian Thomas, who's a sophomore running back from nearby in Oakland, he has 267 yards, which is 7 yards per carry and a touchdown. And I believe Javian Thomas is starting to take over that running back one role and could continue to blossom into a bigger and bigger star as the season goes on. Plus, at the receiver room, you've got another superstar freshman wide receiver. I don't know what it is with the freshman wide receivers this year. This class is absolutely, when they're available for the NFL draft, that could be one of the best wide receiver draft classes ever, based on what we've seen across the country. But California has one of those guys in Isaiah Hunter, who has 182 yards and 4 touchdowns. So even with a mediocre quarterback like Mendoza throwing him the ball, he's got 4 out of Mendoza's 5 passing touchdowns going right to him. So he has absolutely led the wide receiver room, but overall, that room has not been very impressive. And then on defense, this is where California is at their strength with head coach Wilcox at the helm. On the defensive line, they have I'm probably going to butcher this name badly, but on the defensive line, they have Aiden Kiananian. Believe that's how you say it. Has 16 tackles. At linebacker, you have Cade Lave, who has 32 tackles and an interception. He is been an absolute beast. And Teddy Buchanan has 40 tackles and with 2.5 sacks. So both of those linebackers, we just talked about the Miami linebackers. These two linebackers have been superstars for California this season. And then at DB, there's Noel Williams, who has 12 tackles, but 4 interceptions. And one of those 4 interceptions was a pick six. So Cam Ward has been brilliant, but he's got to make sure to circle where Noel Williams is in the secondary and make sure to not throw his way. And then the other thing that's going to be an interesting factor in this game is the special teams, the kicking battle. Because California's starting kicker, Ryan Coe, has not been very good. He's only made about half of his field goal attempts, which is really poor. And then meanwhile, Miami has an experienced and great kicker in Andreas Borregales, who is going to come up clutch when they really need him to. So when it comes to having a great kicker to win a game-winning field goal, Miami has that edge as well. Well, let's talk about the history real quick, and then we'll jump into my prediction for what I think is going to happen in this game. So, believe it or not, these two teams have actually played each other 4 times before in the past, and the series is all tied up. It's 2-2. So, whoever wins this game is going to take the series edge over the other one. The Golden Bears won the most recent matchup back in 2008, 24-17 in the 2008 Emerald Bowl. And I might be mistaken, but I believe Aaron Rodgers was the California quarterback, so that would make sense. And Marshawn Lynch might have been the running back. Could be totally wrong on that though, but that just sounds right with that year. But they won 24-17 in the Emerald Bowl, which used to be in San Francisco. And they first met back in 1964, which was a 9-7 California victory in Miami. And then the two matchups in between, Miami absolutely blew them out. So, what do I think is going to happen in this game? Well, I think the Canes really got a wake up call at home against Virginia Tech. Miami had been obliterating every single opponent they played, they dominated them. I think they were kind of sleepwalking at home against Virginia Tech, who was only 2-2 heading into that game, but had some good talent. And the Hokies got so close. That final call, the fact that he just didn't quite make that catch, and the fact that it was reversed, giving Miami the victory, which in my opinion was the correct call. I think he was bobbling it and never had control all the way to the ground. But Miami escapes with a victory there, literally just barely. I think that was a serious wake up call to the team that they better get it together. Now they're going to go on for a late trip. I think even with California coming off a bye, with everything working in their favor, I still think Miami just has way too much. California's offense has been terrible. I don't think they score a whole lot of points, and I ultimately think Miami survives the trap game and wins this game by 10. They just have way too much talent to lose this one. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to the College Sports Superfan. Remember, I've got a couple more games coming up, including the Fan Game of the Week and the Bunley Game of the Week. And hey, I might even have enough time to put in a couple more games that I want to cover if I am able to. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening and supporting the College Sports Superfan.